today I want to ask a question. And the question is, can we have a double bottom line for tech? And in particular, can we build tech companies, a tech industry that is focused more on not only on, that's actually a good one, not only on making money, but also on making the world a better place. And, in a world of AI, I'm going to argue that this is not only something that we can do, we have to do it. We must do it. And the good news is that Mozilla and a bunch of others are already starting to focus on this. We're already focusing on how do we build pro-human AI that is focused on trust, on privacy, on openness. And really what we need is more people to be doing this. We need you to join us. So why? Why do we need you to join us? Why does this matter? Well, there are a lot of great innovations in the tech world, things that I find incredibly delightful. But at the same time, the tech industry really is a dumpster fire, as we see in the world of AI slop that is growing around us. And it actually kind of cut the punchline for me. But AI slop can be kind of funny, sinister, but funny. But when you think that it's the same technology, this slop that we can't trust, that we're weaving deeply into our workplaces, our businesses, our governments, is kind of worrying. And then you think that that slop train is accelerating against a backdrop of the biggest monopolies the world has ever seen, who are directing not just the future of tech, but big aspects of our society. We can and must do better than this. We need to be able to build tech companies. We need to be able to have a tech industry that actually has human agency in mind, that has sharing the benefits with all of us in mind as we build tech. And it was that idea that tech can be built better that brought me to Mozilla 15 years ago, a little bit more than that, in fact. As a young social entrepreneur, I'd really been inspired by the founders of Mozilla. These were the people who built Firefox, that had taken on Microsoft's monopoly, their attempt to take control of the web, and knocked Internet Explorer down from 95% market share, a near monopoly, just in a couple years to 55%. And in the process, they ushered in Web 2.0. And how did they do that? They did that by building a nonprofit tech company that was driven by the values in what we later called the Mozilla Manifesto, privacy, openness, and trust, and by gathering a global community of tens of thousands of people, kind of a rebel alliance of sorts, people who wanted to build and promote technology that would take on the tech behemoth of the time. And so it was that double bottom line philosophy that drew me to Mozilla 15 years ago. And it's still what drives us today, as we try to do for AI what we did for the web. But figuring out how to tackle that challenge, to tackle today's challenges, has required us to really rethink who we are. And so part of that is we're a web company, a web nonprofit. How do we build AI that has our values? That's been a real thing for us to work through. But the bigger piece is, how do we actually invite others to do the same? And so we've started to rewire our resources so they're not just focused on investing in our own efforts, but also in other double bottom line tech companies. And we're lucky enough that we actually have a lot of money to bring to the table, relatively. Not relative to OpenAI, but I think we have a lot of resources to do this. So Firefox is still profitable. It generates about $500, $600 million a year in revenue. And that's helped us actually build up reserves that we've been able to use to figure out what does it look like for trustworthy AI to be rolled into the kind of software we build. Or resources we've been able to use to set up a separate public benefit corporation focused on helping open source AI become the default for developers. Or resources we've been able to put into our philanthropy that is backing artists and educators and activists who have a very different vision for AI. But it's also let us invest in others. We've set up a venture fund, which is kind of like a very basic, typical seed commercial venture fund in most ways, with the exception that what we do is we use the Mozilla Manifesto as a lens during the due diligence process. We're looking for companies that are trying to build products that push the internet, the web, AI in a better direction. And then we memorialize the social ambitions of those companies in a side letter. And so the kind of companies that we started to work with are Flower AI, a German startup building a totally different architecture for AI that is privacy first and is decentralized in a way that relies less on data centers that suck a huge amount of energy. And when I think about Daniel, who's the founder, he's somebody who's totally Mozilla, totally value-driven, but also comes from this era. He's like a leading AI scientist. Or companies like Alapa, a Johannesburg-based company that builds AI in African languages. And there's more than 2,000 languages in Africa. It's the most linguistically diverse continent in the world. And it also means that AI models trained mostly in English or Chinese don't work well for African populations. And so Pelanomi, the CEO, is focused on building a company that's specifically about building AI that's for Africans by Africans. And then just one last example, we've invested in a bunch of AI governance companies like Credo AI here in the Bay Area. The founder, Navrina, she's an ex-Microsoft exec, very successful there. But she left because she believed that she needed a different kind of company if what she wanted to do was make AI governance work and make sure that AI worked in line with human intentions. So we have, through Mozilla Ventures, invested in 50 companies so far that have this double bottom line philosophy, that are trying to bend tech in another direction. And in addition to our own core portfolio, this is going to be a central part of our strategy going forward. And the reason is we need a Rebel Alliance to bend tech in a better direction. And it's really important that we do that because big tech, the mainstream of tech, is wired to harvest our creativity, to harvest our data, to harvest our money, and only to benefit a few people. We can and must build a different kind of tech industry that has humans in mind and that shares the wealth with all of us. And actually, I believe we can do that if we have a different economic model, if we have a double bottom line, if we build double bottom line tech companies, if we invest using a double bottom line lens, and we invite others to do the same. And my guess is here at SOCAP, maybe in this room, we have investors, we have builders who actually know that this is both essential and that we can do it. And if that is you, I hope you'll join us. Thanks very much.